So with that, again, my name is Justin Youngblood. I'm a field CTO at Comport. Been with Comport for almost 4 years now. Work in the office of the field CTO. And then we have Aaron and Steven that will introduce themselves once they get there. Actually, we can just do that right now. Aaron, do you want to introduce yourself quick? And then I'll pass over to Steven quick for an intro.
Sure. I'm Erin Kelly. I'm a solution sales executive with Congruity 360.
And I'm Stephen Fadagante with HPE, and I'm a global advisor across our hybrid cloud and AI practice areas.
Awesome. So we'll do a quick background about who Comport is for someone who doesn't know. There's kind of two angles that I want to take a quick few minutes just to describe who we are and what we do. So we started out 40 years ago as a traditional solution provider, meaning if you had DAC storage back in the day, 40 years ago, those types of things. And it's grown into all IT things, all security things, whether it's in the cloud, data center, AI, traditional IDFs, things like that. So your traditional VAR concept. Then we have that cloud provider component in the middle of the slide here, where that's more of like your traditional AWS, Azure, as well as our own cloud platforms that we provide, or solutions that we need to get on-prem that still have an OpEx model, things like that. And then we have the managed services component of our business, which is really taking all the things that we do and adding that managed services component onto that if need be, whether it's help desk or doing updates and patches or keeping the lights on, managing those environments so that your staff can focus on more strategic business needs versus just keeping the blinky lights going for you. And if we go to the next slide, here's kind of the areas of technology that we focus on. So we have our cybersecurity in the upper left, whether you're looking at replacing your firewalls all the way to I need a vCISO or a SOC deployment, and then everything in the middle. Managed services I kind of talked about. We can do consulting, we can do managed services for anything that we ever talk about. We can help you on your cloud journey, whether it's moving to AWS, Azure, building a custom on-prem cloud, all those kind of great things. That traditional IT infrastructure, whether it's wireless switches, new storage arrays, all those kind of things fall into that. And then last but not least, the AI HPC environment. If we go on to the next slide, I'll deep dive into that for just a touch, and then we'll get into the good part of this meeting. If you advance one more and get the perfect. So we can do managed services within AI too. So let's say, hey, I got all this private cloud infrastructure that I'm going to invest into to do this private cloud AI initiative. We can help manage those components just like everything else. We can do advisory services, which is kind of like what we're doing today. But we can also look at those environments, do performance analysis and things like that. Let's say you built from scratch AI cluster, HPC cluster, and like, hey, it's not working to our expectations. Before we make this big investment, we need to get a few more dollars squeezed out of that platform. We can do all those kind of fun things, all the way to like how many GPUs do we need to get deployed. We have a legacy parallel file system, all those kind of fun things, and then tack on security to all those components, right? How are we keeping all this data that's going into an AI environment that's more accessible to all of our end users? How do we make sure that they're seeing the right things? All those components are safe, secure. So that's a real quick blurb on who Comport is and how we can help our customers. And with that, I'm going to hand everything over to Aaron. You're on mute, Aaron.
Thank you. I've got some drilling going on outside. So thank you, Justin. So I'll start with just a brief introduction of Congruity 360. We are a leader in unstructured data management. Our Classify 360 platform, really unlocks the potential of unstructured data, making it accessible, analyzable, and actionable for business transformation, thereby, ensuring your data is always ready for AI, audit, GRC, security, and migration initiatives. Through our scalable discovery, classification, and automation, we massively reduce risk and costs associated with the storage and management of your data, while also ensuring compliance and protecting sensitive information. So today's conversation is really about the challenges when getting ready for an AI initiative. And one of those challenges is unstructured data chaos. What we know is that over 80% of data is unstructured and much of it is rot, and that is growing year over year. So some of the challenges include data silos, duplication of data, and just general age of the content, which increases the AI training costs and bias. Models trained on incomplete, mislabeled, or low quality data really produces unreliable output. And without governance, AI investments tend to focus more on processing noise than actual learning. And what we've heard from industry experts is not that dissimilar to what you yourselves may be experiencing. For example, Gartner, via a Forbes article not long ago, cites that 85% of AI models fail due to poor quality of their data or a lack of relevant data. Gartner had also predicted that by 2026, 60% of AI projects would fail if it's not supported by AI-ready data practices. And so then lastly, between 60 to 80% of data scientists are spending time on data cleaning and preparation versus, really supporting the business on what those AI outputs are. So how do we solve for this? Well, we solve for it by partnering with companies like Comport to optimize AI outcomes by executing AI readiness assessments. Our value is really driven by enabling organizations to accelerate their AI initiatives by providing them a complete understanding of their data through that AI lens. We do that by connecting out to the various different unstructured data sources across the landscape, whether they're on-prem or in the cloud, and we execute our enterprise insights. Through that enterprise insights, we are then identifying data, discovering of those data sources, the content types, the data owners, any rot data and any risk data like PII or sensitive information that you do not want being transmitted into the AI models. The outcome here is gaining full visibility into your unstructured data repositories. Following that with step 2, we then clean and cull by removing any of the rot data or risk data like your IP or PCI information, PII information, or any other sensitive data. And through that, we're really reducing the costs associated to processing that rot, as well as the reduction in any storage costs. We're also lowering, your compliance exposure by ensuring the data quality and that sensitive data hasn't made its way into your AI models. We can then tag data. So we can tag or label the data by domain, sensitivity, retention, risk, or even ownership. And again, this is to provide visibility and accountability on the data that is used within your AI models. The outcome there really enables the selective filtering, masking, lineage, and has a direct impact on the amount of time that the data scientists have to spend cleaning and prepping that data. So I really can't stress this enough. Not understanding the data you're pushing into your AI models can create problems if you're asked to defend your models. Our enterprise insights allow you to create that blueprint of your data and the sources, really resulting in improved effectiveness and accuracy of your AI models, protection of your sensitive information and compliance with your industry regulations, and really achieve data provenance and defensible models. Our platform, our Classify 360 platform, really aligns nicely with the NIST 2.0 CSF framework. So in partnering with Comport and implementing Congruity 360's workflow, you'll achieve key KPIs such as, full visibility into your unstructured data sources through our enterprise insights engagement. So whether that is an assessment, a one-time 30-day project, or an ongoing annual subscription to ensure that you're continuously gaining visibility, cleaning up your data as it's produced by your end users and preparing it for utilization in your AI models. We can do that through actioning the data. So again, that cleaning and culling practice for, again, any data that will be used in the models. Because what we're realizing is a 50 to 70% reduction in unnecessary data being retained within your organization. So you're really doing across the board data cleanup, not only for your AI readiness project, but also just good data hygiene, good data practice from a governance perspective. But what that result is a 2 to 3 times faster AI data preparation cycle. And we can do that in a number of ways. Again, either through the general cleanup of rot or by analyzing based on data age, what data could be set aside if it's not going to be producing any value to the organization. We can absolutely move some of that data, lower your risk, moving it from your production network over to a very privileged network. So it's taken out of circulation and set aside from any AI practice that you may be undertaking. So really, what is the overall impact here? From an infrastructure perspective, we're talking about, approximately 30 to 60% reduction in your storage and compute spend by removing that rot data, an estimated 40% improvement in data processing efficiencies, faster pipelines, less reprocessing of data, and approximately 25% lower AI infrastructure overhead due to the streamlined training of your data sets. And from an AI output perspective, you're improving your model accuracy by roughly 15 to 25% because it's cleaner, you've reduced some of the bias, you've got faster model convergence time, so shortening the training and iterations that the data team needs to go through, fewer false positives and negatives in predictive use cases. And so I'll leave you, with just a quick quotation from IDC and Forrester when it talks about benchmarking metrics, is that organizations that implement data governance before an AI initiative see a 2x ROI on their AI initiatives within 12 months. And that circles back to that first initial slide of what is holding companies back from being able to optimize their AI initiatives, and how do you be proactive in ensuring that you are going to be successful in the investment that you're making with your AI. So overall, it really just makes sense to really understand your data landscape and the data that's eligible to be used within your AI models. And so with that, I will transition this over to Stephen of HPE, and he'll walk us through some of those infrastructure considerations.
Yeah, that was awesome, Aaron. So one thing I'd like to maybe share a quick story on is when customers think about AI, don't think of it just as what Steven's going to talk about, of just how do I build a private AI and how do I take all of my company data and make better business decisions. It's also simple things like Microsoft Copilot, right? When I'm looking at deploying, or I already have deployed Microsoft Copilot, that's enabled all of my data in all of my platforms that I'm giving it to be analyzed by anyone, right? So there's a big security risk when we start doing that of is the HR data and the marketing data and the other data, is it really the right data for them? And is it the right data for all the other users, right? So we need to make sure that the data is secure for the right users, because as soon as you start to turn on those models, it can be exposed to everyone. And we've seen it time and time again when we put in a product like this to say, hey, show me where all of my data is and who should have access to it. We start to see some things that may have never been a problem for your organization before, but now that we've enabled a tool like Copilot or something else to see that data, maybe someone has access to financials they shouldn't have access to. We saw one example of our customer, their marketing department had all their Facebook passwords in a shared folder that everyone had access to that no one knew existed other than marketing. But when you type it in Copilot, boom, it's there for you. So there's a lot of other ways to use a tool like this to help safeguard the business, not just AI, but that unstructured data policy in general. So with that, Aaron, if you have anything to add to that, otherwise we can get on to Stephen.
I was just going to say, great points, Justin. Absolutely.
Yeah. So team, again, Steve Fadagante, thanks, Aaron and Justin, and hopefully you'll find it interesting that I'm going to go a little beyond just infrastructure in my conversation. I've got in excess of 3 decades of IT experience, and I've spent about 50% of that time in the automated decisioning, inference, and AI spaces. And so, what I'd like to do is just offer you a little bit of insight and storytelling from the field, and hopefully it translates into the following for you. Maybe the definition or refinement or acceleration of both your AI and hybrid cloud for AI strategies. And so I'd love to set the tone early with the following. At HPE, when we look at the building blocks of enterprise grade AI, there are really 4 distinct pillars, and we leverage distinct methods and techniques to enable and modernize each of those pillars. The first one, from an HPC or traditional comp quant sim perspective, we're not only bringing modern compute, storage, and networking to the table, but we're also helping organizations start to modernize their HPC applications with surrogate models to improve processing time, to enable a higher number of transactions, simulations, and hypothesis tests in the same run windows. So we're sort of a dual threat there, especially with our partnership from NVIDIA. There's some very interesting things that we can do to not only provide you with processing power, but efficiency around those applications. Obviously, we've got, I think right now, we've got the top 3 supercomputers that are available to the general public and 7 of the top 10. And so we're very well steeped in machine and deep learning with that Cray supercomputer line. But what we're starting to see is a lot of organizations are saying, look, Stephen, HPC right now, I'm viewing as a distinct entity. Maybe I'm not ready given the fact that I'm relatively new to AI, so I'm not going to be doing any building or development of my own models. Really help me in the generative and agentic space, and that'll be the focus of our conversation today. And how can I start to put the power, capability, and responsibility of innovation associated with AI into the hands of both my, I'll say, emerging data science and business community. And so, like I said, that'll be the emphasis of the talk. But to round out the pillars, we're spending a lot of time with customers as well, helping them leverage white label or embedded AI and inference capabilities with software platforms, tools, and capabilities across the enterprise, with an emphasis on automation, orchestration, and modernizing their operating model. So if we get back to the topic at hand of generative and agentic AI, Aaron did a really good job of talking about some of the challenges associated with data opportunities, whether it's bad data, incomplete data, or the integration of data. And what I'm starting to see as I present this slide to you, there are really 2 distinct challenges for those that are relatively new in the AI space. Number one, it's actually framing and accelerating time to hypothesis test. So for some, they may have the straw man of both a hybrid cloud and an AI strategy that integrates a data strategy as well. They may be thinking about some use cases, but they need a little bit of a Kickstarter in order to develop perspective and take some 360 feedback and apply that to emerging standards and an evolving strategy. So when we look at these distinct opportunities and where are our efforts in the field either stalling or failing, it's twofold. Number one, it's having the infrastructure, software, tooling, and platform to run these hypothesis tests in a safe and secure manner. And then number two, taking the ideas that pass the sniff test around a POC and then operationalizing them at scale. So the first thing I'd want to offer is there's really these 2 distinct areas, and I'd like to summarize some of the specific challenges on the next slide. So this is information from the field. This is an informal survey, not as robust as something coming from Gartner and IDC, but For the past 3 years, I've been working at HPE in the generative and agentic space. And these are the big themes that we're seeing emerge. And if we look at this as a bookend opportunity, number one, those that are at the C-level suite or responsible for strategy or are in the IT space and will be responsible for the development of, the care and feeding and operationalization of an AI platform are asking this: how do I take signals from my business and turn that into a plan of record, not only for hypothesis testing, but operational solutions at scale? And how can I start to sustain innovation on a regular basis with a deep understanding that I'm going to need to evolve my enterprise data center and colo strategy? And I've got some existing investments that I've already made. And how can I start to apply some best practices to dedicated AI platforms to generate these outcomes? So if we look at those bookend opportunities, um, they're being specifically, I'll say, addressed with key themes in the middle. Number one, establishing a foundational AI platform with a set of tools. So if you're not in the data science community, but rather you'd be responsible on the IT and your business users, your data engineers, your data scientists, those are going to build AI applications, are going to be asking for capability and capacity. So what does that mean? I need a compute fabric that can support the work I'm going to do. I need a dedicated platform with integrated tools so I can bring those machine learning IDEs, so to speak, to bear, and a complete tool set to prepare data, to integrate data, to fine tune models, to train them up and get them to a point where we can deploy them into production. And so if we look at a foundational element and a big part of where you'd think a traditional HPE would play, it's providing you with the platform, the infrastructure, the compute fabric, et cetera. But customers are also asking, well, what model should I start with? Are there ways, HPE and your partner ecosystem, that you can start to accelerate outcomes with blueprints and frameworks to get me from point A to point B more quickly? And then how do I start to take these smart responses or inference being served in production and integrate them with meaningful application experiences, either applications that are emerging or existing applications today that personas are using, enjoying, and will benefit from the addition of intelligent AI responses. And then ultimately, how do I make this a performance system? So if I start to decompose the voice of customer, we're really getting into two big buckets. Number one, how do I start to develop perspective and an opinion with hypothesis testing? Number two, as I start to advance and operationalize solutions, do I have the platform and ecosystem by which to do that? And then ultimately, how do I modernize my operating model around all of this? So given those inputs, given the challenges, given that sentiment across industry and vertical, we've come up with a solution in partnership with NVIDIA called HPE Private Cloud AI. This is a fully engineered system. So think the compute fabric, storage, and networking packaged in an appliance model that also incorporates all of the software that you would need or the ability to integrate open source tools to not only build, train, and refine models, but also to handle all of the operational steps around model lineage, data lineage, deployment, observability, billing, and metering. So this really is a turnkey solution that's specifically engineered for organizations that are looking for fast time to value, for bounded costs, and a safe and secure system that operates in the enterprise space, whether that's data center or colo. And what we've done is we affectionately call these t-shirt sizes, but we have very specific configurations that relate to the n number of use cases or work you will be doing on the platform, such that you do have those bounded costs The engineered system is fit for purpose. And if you choose to have us or a channel partner manage this for you, we can do that. So you can really emphasize the work of modernizing the business, the work of taking AI-oriented inference and smart responses and start generating wonderful output and productivity for your workforce, or great integration opportunities, whether it's B2B or B2C. So this is sort of that logical easy button to get you started, to help you gain perspective, and to provide you with the extensibility, all in a private setting. So I had mentioned the software very briefly. One of the things that I would want to emphasize with you here is that in partnering with NVIDIA, we have this very unique value proposition that has an emphasis not only on the data science traditional work, but also on the machine learning and AI operations front. So combined, we have this better together story, not only from the hardware, the GPU, and the compute fabric perspective, but all of the tooling you need in order to evaluate, build, deploy, and operate on an ongoing basis and be successful. So we've eliminated a lot of the barriers that we've heard from our customer base, both prior to building this solution and as we've gone all the way through Gen 1 and now Gen 2 of the solution. And so as I go through the remainder of this discussion, what I'm hoping is that you maybe get some nuggets or key ingredients that help you accelerate a strategy or provide you with a data point where you say, hey, I'd love to double click in a subsequent session with HPE, with Comport moving forward. Okay. So just some quick data as to the legitimacy of the solution. You'll see the infographic on the left. We've talked about the technical aspects, but as we start to pivot to a business case orientation, if you look at a side-by-side comparison of the total cost of ownership, our private cloud solution is significantly cheaper than our public cloud counterparts. And what we've seen is if you are in a position to try to build your own AI platform from scratch, we're also significantly cheaper and faster, I'll say more valuable as you see those two. So a little anecdote, we're seeing it takes anywhere between 6 and 12 months of infrastructure and IT build out in order to produce rendition 1 of a platform. And so from there, there's obviously evaluation you have to do. There's modernization, there's updates, there's a 360 feedback loop. And so if you start to go with a private solution from HPE, you are productive within days. You are starting to run hypothesis tests, evaluation, and experimentation within days, given our manufacturing and our pre-configuration approach and integration into your enterprise. So if you start to look at that differentiation, how can I start to hypothesis test more quickly? We're providing you and your enterprise with the power to begin that journey. And then through the combination of HPE and the partner channel and all of the advisory and professional services, we move you from POC to proof of value to pilot to production scale. And just a last little bit of selling before I give you some additional insights. IDC has recognized us as a leader in this private space. And so we're really excited to continue to work with you and enable and accelerate your strategies and deliver next generation capability and capacity to make you successful. But like I said, I'm going to give you a little bit more than just the hardware here, and I'm going to give you some additional perspective. So one of the things that I'm building out very closely with our customer base in North, South America, as well as Europe, is the concept of an AI innovation factory. So as an internal service provider or an AI platform owner, how can I create almost innovation and AI as a service to my internal constituents such that they can go really from concept to idea to evaluation to production scale as quickly and as cleanly as possible with process harmonization along the way. And you see some of the basic tenets here. You probably think of HPE, excuse me, from a platform and capacity standpoint. But what we're really doing and working with our customers and having all of that expertise from model development and training and sort of the large language model and supercomputer space is we're helping customers address their innovation themes and targets or the specific use cases where they have a business case. We're activating innovators and change agents with platform tooling and expertise. And then we're also helping you modernize your IT operating model. And we'll get into some specifics as to what we see that emphasis being. All along the way, we're providing you with the infrastructure and the areas, the workspaces, so you have a very deliberate and repeatable path to production. And so we highlight this here in these 3 areas or production lines associated with the factory: research and development, operationalization of solutions or traditional development, and then that pivot to production. So as we start to work with you, as we evaluate your digital ambitions, your goals, and your strategic objectives, we start to align not only the right private cloud AI configuration, but also the right configuration for lower and higher environments. So you've got dedicated systems with high availability, disaster recovery to support all of your inference needs at scale. So this is a critical dimension around that path to production. Now, at the same time, we realize that you may not have the data science, data engineering, or all of the skills in order to enable and enact AI-oriented solutions today, especially from a generative and an agentic perspective. And we've enabled something in the past 12 months called the Unleash AI Partner Ecosystem. This is where we work very closely with a collection of ISVs that are certified to run on private cloud AI, that are complemented by system integrator integration, such that we can bring turnkey solutions to you that sit directly on top of private cloud AI. So you certainly have the choice. There's that continuum of full DIY. Here's an AI platform. We've got a software tooling integration, go. Or you can start to use solution accelerators from our partners from NVIDIA that come in the form of NVIDIA blueprints. So accelerators and reference architectures to accelerate outcomes, whether that's the integration of pipelines, workflows, and their NVIDIA NIMs for GPU acceleration. That's an option. But we also have that full turnkey solution, both from the GSI partnerships in action with Accenture and Deloitte. And now I think we have in excess of 40 partner solutions in our Unleash AI partner program. And I'd love to just give you an example of one. I put together in the past 6 months a solution bundle around smart facility safety. So we have 3 ISVs that have very specific capabilities. Number one, video restoration. So we have camera, device, and sensor input. We restore those inputs with one ISV solution, and we feed that information, those critical inputs, into a Vision AI safety event processing system by which we understand zones and areas and equipment and violations. And when we visually identify those infractions, we pass it to a third system, an agentic system that does reasoning and carries out systems integration, automation, and orchestration. So it's simply an example that we're really supporting the full continuum from full DIY to accelerators to turnkey solutions. All of these are certified on top of our private cloud AI system. So you get the benefit of accelerating hypothesis testing and operationalizing solutions with either little to no data science integration, and really an emphasis simply on your business, bringing analysts and subject matter experts to the table with a combination of advisory and professional services to get you from point A to point B. So I'd love for you to know there's a deliberate shift in the ISV community where they are reducing the amount of data science work and pivoting to low code, no code options. So you can be successful in the generative and agentic space without having that inherent data science knowledge. And so just to put this together in a visual, if we look at the shared responsibility model, yes, I'm oversimplifying some of the key elements on the left-hand side. But what I'm trying to emphasize here is that number one, yes, it does take a village. Number two, there's a de-emphasis on pure data science capability and capacity. And we have a deliberate way, a measured methodology by which you go from platform and factory all the way through risk and compliance. And you heard some of those methods and techniques on the data front in the earlier session. And so, okay, Stephen, you say, wait a second, there's this AI platform, there's software tooling that sits on top. I have options around DIY or turnkey solutions that sit on top of this private cloud AI solution. Is there anything else that I should be thinking about? And what we have found, this analysis comes from both 10 years and over 1,000 engagements from a hybrid cloud perspective, and now hybrid cloud for AI. This is the emphasis in HPE's opinion as to where organizations could and should start to modernize their IT operating model to support AI innovation and then operationalizing inference at scale. So what you may find interesting is there are both some hard and some soft dimensions across the enterprise associated with AI, excellence around strategy and governance and people, and also the integration of security, data, DevOps, and operation, all bound, especially in the early days, with an emphasis on design thinking and lean and establishing a 360 feedback loop. So you can start to enrich that innovation factory and solidify business cases from opportunity. And so if I circle back, because I know we're getting near the end of the session, I wanted to provide you, I gave you that thin stripe in the beginning, the bookends around the business signals and sustainable IT on the right-hand side with a generative and agentic focus in pink. But I wanted to overlay with some of the key themes from a hybrid cloud perspective. So this is where the story comes in, hybrid cloud for AI. We are not ignoring some of those key tenets from what I'll call good traditional IT that are very specific to your AI journey. And this is a very overloaded infographic here, but these are the key themes coming directly from Voice of Customer. Like I said, over 10 years and 1,000 transformation engagements in one visual. So I present this just to say, hey, you may see some of yourself in this infographic, and we might be a really good candidate to work with you side by side to not only provide you with AI solutions, but make sure that you've got a fully capable hybrid cloud ecosystem such that you can build, deploy, and then operate at scale. And I'll say as we get to our close here, we recognize that transformation is not linear, but we try to put this together in a view so you get a sense for, as you work with HPE and our channel partner, we're not only focused on what you might think is the traditional right-hand side from an HPE perspective. So the hybrid cloud ecosystem, private cloud solutions, and critical enterprise services. But we're also very focused, especially from a generative and an agentic standpoint, to help you gain enterprise alignment, given the depth and breadth of use cases and industry verticals that we've supported to date. We're in a very good position to help you with it. To understand strategy, feasibility, and really leveraging the concept of the innovation factory so you can run a high volume of proof of concepts and technology and pivot to proof of value as you see fit. And then taking emerging standards and applying them to an enterprise approach that really supports that process harmonization and standards to help you reduce risk and really operate within your risk appetite. And what I would share at the end is, especially from a day two perspective, shared responsibility is absolutely critical. So depending upon your expertise, your capability and capacity. We can establish an initial shared responsibility model for innovation and operations and flex that over time as you start to learn. So in summary, I'd offer these 4 critical points. Number 1, we talked about those 4 pillars, excuse me, of enterprise AI, the traditional HPC or Compquant Sim, the model development, training, and deep learning, the integration of AI ops or white label solutions, and then ultimately generative and agentic, the focus of the conversation today. Each of those has a set of dedicated methods and techniques to not only introduce but scale solutions and modernize your operating model. Number 2, this concept of the AI factory is more than infrastructure. It's really the way you go from idea to concept to proof of value to business case validation and operationalization at scale. And we believe with our private cloud solution, you can take this engineered solution and start innovating day one, which accelerates time to value and insights for you and your enterprise. And then finally, shared responsibility really does drive outcomes. So we're here to help. You don't have to go on this road alone. And with that continuum of DIY options that sits on top of the platform, we can really help you find not only the right configuration of a private cloud solution, but the right turnkey solutions that could possibly sit on top to help you drive outcomes. So anyway, that's all I had today. I thank you for your time. I'll turn it back over to the team. If there's any questions, we'll start to address follow-ups or any Q&A, both here through the live chat and then offline.
Yeah,
Thanks,
awesome.
team.
That was great. I think the biggest thing to look at when we start talking about this stuff is unless you've done this for 5 years and it's the only thing you do, there's still a ton to learn, and you're not going to find too many people that can check both those boxes.
There's a ton. I've been doing this 15 years and I'm learning every day. So yeah, I think that's a
Yep.
good moral of the story.
Yep. Yeah. So and we've seen a lot of customers that are, still in the DIY phase, or they have data scientists, they're trying to crunch numbers with their existing platforms. Like it's not too early or not too late to have us come in and kind of see where you're at in your journey and figure out if there's some shortcuts that we can help you with. We've seen a lot of this stuff go wrong, and we've seen a lot of this stuff go well, and we can help kind of bring you up to speed very, very quickly in a short amount of time. So if there's no questions coming through here, I'll ask Aaron if you have any last final comments before we end our session today.
No, I just encourage the attendees to reach out to the Comport team to learn more about the data assessment process that Comport can help them through, the Classify 360 platform, in particular, Enterprise Insights, to gain that immediate visibility and really set yourselves up for success in leveraging the HPE infrastructure and technology that Stephen walked us through today. So definitely follow up with Comport. They have the tools and the solutions and the knowledgeable staff to help you on this journey.
Great. Well, I think we'll cut it to a close, and then if there's any additional questions after, like Aaron said, reach out to us, and we'll get back to you, and we'll set up some time and go through all those in detail with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.